Today, August 25th, the entry is called Respect the Past but Be Open to the Future. And the quotation is, "Won't you be walking in your predecessors' footsteps? I surely will use the older path, but if I find a shorter and smoother way, I'll blaze a trail there. The ones who pioneered these paths aren't our masters but our guides. Truth stands open to everyone. It hasn't been monopolized." And the explanation is, traditions are often time-tested best practices for doing something. But remember that today's conservative ideas were once controversial, cutting-edge, and innovative. This is why we can't be afraid to experiment with new ideas. In Seneca's case, he might be embracing some new philosophical insight that improves on the writing of Zeno or Cleanthes. In our case, perhaps a breakthrough in psychology improves on the writing of Seneca or Marcus Aurelius. Or perhaps we have a breakthrough of our own. If these ideas are true and better, embrace them, use them. You don't need to be a prisoner of dead old men who stopped learning 2,000 years ago. And this comes, apologies, from Seneca, Moral Letters 33.11. This is a short one, but what can we learn from it? That we should, I think it relates to the one somewhat of the other day where it talked about finding truth and finding wisdom where one can. In the previous quotation, it was reminding us to find truth and wisdom even in places where we may not expect it to be, or from people we may not expect it to come from. And this reminds us that simply because ideas of today, simply because today we have overarching ideas that may exist, it does not mean that we always have to have such ideas that exist. I think in today's society, in today's modern society that is very much fueled by very rapid technological advances, the ideas that are prevalent are very, very, very quickly changing in comparison to the past. And one reason for this is just the fact that the flow of information has never been as fast as before on the one hand. On the second hand, everyone can nowadays be a purveyor of information, whereas before it was very few people through very few channels that could actually be sending a message. Now anyone with a smartphone or a camera or a computer, but overwhelmingly a smartphone, can send messages and can put out ideas, which is fantastic. But I think it also makes our world a little bit or very much more confusing than it was in the past. And nowadays, because there's such a rapid and diverse flow of information that's available at our fingertips, there's so many ideas out there. And, this, of course, has its benefits. And I realize that I'm now straying from the quotation of the day, but it's spurred some thoughts regarding how we live today in the society. But I think, it can be confusing for people as well, right? Because people are being, especially young people, I would say, are being bombarded with so much information all the time. First of all, our phones are with us literally all the time. They're being bombarded with so much information, and oftentimes this information, can be contradictory. They may be seeing social media that tells them to act a certain way or look a certain way, that may be inconsistent also with what they're experiencing in their own lives, for example. So I think there's a lot of confusion, and I would love to give some examples. I'm not sure which ones to give right now, but I think there are many examples, and probably in your own life as well. I know I have at many times felt overwhelmed by the amount of information that comes at us from all streams. And I think it's also super important to, especially in a time when we are being bombarded with so much information, to really take the time to think about what we're being inundated with, and also consider how it applies, if it makes sense. And I think it's more important now more than ever before to be extremely critical of what we're seeing, what we're consuming. And nowadays, of course, we also have to worry about, hey, is this information actually true? Is it fact checked? Is it actually In the case of images or videos nowadays, is it even real, or is it just generated by AI? I think this is going to be another one of the next huge things that is going to come up within the space. But yeah, coming back to this quotation, which I don't think I've done justice to today. Respect the past, but be open to the future. Won't you be walking in your predecessors' footsteps? I surely will use the older path, but if I find a shorter and smoother way, I will blaze a trail there. Again, I think how could we adapt it a little bit to fit our own times is, yes, there's things that we are taught, things that we are brought up with, things that we're told, which are there for a reason and have stood the test of time for a reason. But I think we have to remember, specifically in that context, specifically if we are not, oftentimes when we're taught something by teachers, by parents, by teachers, by people who know us personally and care about us, there often is some merit to what they're saying. Whether we don't realize those things until we're much older. For example, maybe you were brought up a certain way, but you thought your parents were too strict or too whatever the case may be. But as you got older, you realize, I understand why they told me to do this or told me not to do that or whatnot. But in the sense where we are being told things by social media, by companies, by advertising companies, and you have to remember that a lot of what you're seeing online can be masked as good advice, but you have to ask yourself, who is giving this advice? What is the source of this information, and what are their motives for actually saying this? And you'll find that, of course, most of the time it's to sell you shit or to make you change something about yourself, so that you will buy something that they're selling. So I think it's extremely important to think about where the source of information is coming from. B, ask yourself who is telling you, this to do this or not to do that, and understand what their exterior or ulterior motives might be. And that is it.